Hello, gentle listener, and welcome to another episode of In Lieu of Murder. This is your host, Ainoa.
And this is Amanda Marie. Tonight we are going to be talking about Laci Peterson and whether or not we as a collective bunch feel that Scott is guilty.
Hmm.
So, we are bringing back up the Laci Peterson case because, as many of you know, they are back in the news again. So, we're going to start from the very, very beginning and get all caught up as a bunch so that we can follow what's going on with Scott Peterson's newest trial. So I'm going to actually start from the very beginning
Okay.
because I think it's important. So for starters, we're going to talk about Laci. And Laci was born May 4th, 1975. Her parents had met in high school. They owned a dairy farm out in California. Laci worked on this dairy farm from a really young age. And then, like, even when her parents got divorced, which happened when she was in about second grade, Laci still went to the dairy farm on the weekends and worked. So
Hmm.
from the beginning, Laci was a very, very driven person. She was very much about family. That's how she grew up. Even when, like, her stepdad stepped into the picture, Laci wasn't that old when he stepped into the picture, and that was her dad, but she still went to that dairy farm to see her father every single weekend.
So she was a family girl. She enjoyed the family atmosphere. I mean, that's
Correct. Well, and Laci's mom developed a relationship with Ron Gransky, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name right, when Laci was 2. So she was with this man, Ron, her entire life.
yeah. So it was basically her father to her
Right.
second father as well. Yeah, makes
Correct.
sense.
So, and she was the typical all-American girl. She was a cheerleader in junior high and high school. She was very social and outgoing. She went off to college. She just wanted to be a good person.
Yeah, it sounds
All
like she was
right.
doing all the right things.
Attempting to.
Yeah.
So now we're going to move on to Scott. There's not a lot about Scott from his previous life that is like very mainstream. You have to really dig to find out some information on him. I do know that he was born into a family. That family owned a crate packaging company, and his mom owned a boutique.
Okay.
Her boutique was called The Put On. I just really love the name of her boutique. Um, so Scott's passion while he was growing up was golf. So like by the end of high school, he was like one of the top junior golfers in San Diego where he grew up. And he actually went to college on a golf scholarship.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know golf could get you through college.
Yeah, no, me either. And that's why learning a lot about this was like, but he was always considered like a model student. So there were no red flags at all about Scott at any point for someone to be like, we should keep an eye on him in life.
Yeah, no, he does look like that, like in the movies, the guy that you bring home to your parents that they absolutely would love.
Right.
That's what he looks like. He looks like the
Absolutely.
perfect Prince Charming.
Listen, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I'm not even into people of Scott's descent, but I think he's a really cute guy.
I actually don't find him attractive at all, but that's because I like the
Maybe I'm just into killers. It's not my fault.
maybe. I
Red flag circus.
Oh god. Okay.
All right, so now we're gonna kind of jump ahead a little bit to when they met. So he was at Cal Poly. He worked for Pacific Cafe, which was a restaurant. Um, and Laci would like occasionally visit the restaurant to see a friend who also worked there. So eventually their paths crossed enough where Laci felt comfortable giving her number to him. The first day that Scott texted Laci, she told her mom that that was going to be the man she was going to marry.
Well,
And
those are some high expectations for
listen, Laci, I get it because you can ask Noah. That was actually my phone call to her with my ex-husband. I called her within a week and I said, I'm going to marry that man.
Yep, and those decisions never end well.
Yeah, see?
Apparently.
We'll talk about my story someday, but I'm still here. Poor Laci, man. It's
Mhm.
so as the relationship grew more serious, Scott realized that he was not going to be able to keep someone like Laci around because of how prominent she was. And I don't mean stuck up or anything like that. I mean that she was a boss female. You know, she did whatever it took. She had no problem working hard, clearly from growing up working on a farm. Um, so he decided that he would have to kind of put aside his dream of golf and focus on a business career. So that's what he did. Um, they dated for about 2 years and then they moved in together. And then in 1997, Laci graduated and they got married.
Aw, look at them.
She's so pretty. That's and you can tell just by the wedding photos that it was probably one of the most beautiful weddings.
It does look like they spent quite a bit of money on that wedding, to be honest with you. If you guys are listening and not watching the video, please do go to our YouTube channel and subscribe, and you can
Absolutely,
take a
so that
look
you
at
can
all the
see.
pictures.
Scott's then finishing his senior year in college. Laci
Mm.
had taken a job in, a nearby I was gonna say a nearby state, but it's a nearby city, y'all. She she didn't cross state lines. Um, and then in June of 1998, Scott graduated also. And the two of them together decided to open a sports bar out in St. Louis. I can't say the next word. St. Louis Obispo. Obispo?
Obispo. Obispo.
Obispo. Okay.
Mhm. It means bishop.
Okay. So that's a name of a city,
Mhm. It is.
which I wasn't aware of. So we should all visit there and we should go to the shack. No, they don't own it anymore. So they actually decided to put the shack up for sale in 2001 because Laci wanted to move back to her hometown in Modesto so that they could finally start a family.
Oh, that's she wanted to be close to the parents, I'm guessing.
Correct.
Yeah, with a family, you wanna be able to have your parents close by so you can drop off the children and run away.
See, and I so get that. I feel horrible for my sisters because we're like me and my mom are like 5 hours away from them. So they can't just drop the kids off on a random weekend and disappear. They got to plan it, or at least tell us they're on the way. So, um, I can definitely understand because I'm a parent's girl. Like I was a daddy's girl my entire life. And once he passed, I am my mama's girl. And I can't go a day without calling my mom going, "Hey, am I supposed to do this?" Oh, anyways, they because they sold the shack, they were able to go ahead and purchase their first house, which was a 3-bedroom home on Covina Avenue. It's an upscale neighborhood that she really wanted to live in East La Loma Park. Um, when they got out there, Laci took a part-time job as a substitute teacher, and Scott got a job with Trade Corp USA. So he had a salary before taxes of about $5,000 a month as soon as they moved there.
Oh,
So
wow, and
back
that's all.
then, that was decent money, really decent money.
Yeah.
So they were able to live very comfortably on the fact that Laci worked part time um, as a substitute teacher. because he was bringing in some pretty good money. And Laci's family goes on to say that, you know, Laci put all of her energy into being the best she could be for her mother, for her sisters, for her family. All she wanted to do was like be the perfect housewife. She enjoyed cooking, entertaining. She used to watch Martha Stewart like the Bible. Because all she wanted to do was be the said she was gonna
Martha.
be home. Yeah. Well, and they mentioned Martha a lot. Laci really looked up to her. Um, and then in 2002, Laci got pregnant, and all of her dreams at that moment came true. And for anybody who's ever tried for a child, you know how frustrating and anxious that can make you. So when she did finally get pregnant, she was so excited. Um, and their son, which they were going to name Connor, was due on February 10th of 2003.
Okay,
So
so
so that's where we're at. Is you know, we're in 2002. She finds out she's pregnant. Um,
was he excited as well? Because I mean, if they had been trying for a while, had to be such a happy moment for both of
according
them.
to his family, he never speaks about it. But according to his family, he was really excited and he talked about Connor all the time.
Okay.
So, and that's where a lot of my confusion, and as we get into this next part, I want to explain this. I'm not completely sold that Scott did it. Only because I know that people have really different personalities, and that's something that I didn't learn really until I was 38 years old. Me and I know we were just talking about this a little while ago. Um, because I went my entire life thinking that everyone had a narrator in their head. And then I found out that that's from my ADHD. Um, I went my entire life thinking that, you know, everybody reacted the same ways and I was just super emotional about things, but I found out that's my ADHD. I went my entire life thinking that if people weren't in your life constantly every day and you didn't miss them, that you were a horrible person. But you're not because that's part of
It was
ADHD.
your ADHD.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
with that being said, I react very differently to certain situations. So, if Scott has any kind of illness, ADHD, any form of autism, things like that, he's going to be very calm in very upsetting situations because that's how you react. A person with ADHD in the middle of a crisis is calm, cool, collected, and can do anything.
Yeah,
But
you
if we gotta
thrive, huh?
prepare for the crisis or we gotta prepare for the meeting that means nothing, it's gonna drive us crazy all day. So, it's one of those things where you have to unless you really know Scott, you don't know, and the only people that really know Scott and this besides Scott is probably his family. Um,
That's very true. But have they actually and what you're saying, it's totally valid, but have they come out and mentioned that he does have ADHD or any form of
no, and I'm only bringing that up based on I dive into theories online.
okay.
And I read a very long theory on Scott's personality that actually was written by a psychiatrist. And that psychiatrist was just stating that they believe that the calmness from him is a form of autism that he's had his whole life.
Maybe that's something that they're gonna explore in the trial?
We'll get
Possibly, do
there.
you think? Okay.
I hope so.
Continue, me lady.
All right. So she's pregnant. They know it's a boy. They know they're going to name him Connor. And then in 2002, Scott went to a Fresno massage therapist and he met Amy.
They look
Oh,
really
Amy.
cute.
Yeah, they look really happy.
I
Um,
feel like I say that about all the pictures that we post of couples. Like all the couples look cute. I think just being in love in general makes you have like a glow, or something because every single couple picture we put on here, I'm like, "Oh, they're really cute." They're really cute. Even the mug shots, they look like a really cute couple. So I feel like it has something to do with being in love that just makes
It
you look
gives you a
adorable.
glow.
It must. It must. But
I know it
um
said that like she's never had a glow. It must. It's never been there, but
I don't remember anymore. It's been so long,
oh
eons
man.
ago.
So I
But
want to remember as we're moving forward that they met in November of 2002.
got it.
So
And
at this point, Lacey's like almost 7 months pregnant.
what a piece of shit. I think
Um,
there's nothing worse than cheating on your like being pregnant and
your spouse, like it's
cheating on you.
listen, it's
No.
one thing if that's your baby mama and she was a hookup and y'all don't deal no more, but you cheating on your wife
Mhm.
while she's pregnant with your kid, like I am not a two wrongs make a right, but if I had ever gone through that, I can't say that I hadn't gone through that, but not while I was a wife. But if I had ever gone through that, like I'm pretty sure that I would have got my get my got back, whatever. I would have got
Either
back.
or, you would have
Okay,
got back.
so
Amanda's got back. Dun, dun,
um,
dun, 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 dun. Anyways,
listen,
ADHD.
no,
Continue.
I just want to point out that nobody dances to Rin-a-tin-tin-tin. All right, so we're gonna jump now to December. And we're gonna take a big leap, not really, but a month leap to December 23rd. Now this
Wow.
is the day
Such a big
before.
leap.
Um, this is technically the day of, but for some people they consider it the day before. So here we go. On December 23rd, Lacey and Scott went to the salon where Lacey's sister Amy worked. And they went there because Scott got a haircut from her every month and he was going to get a haircut so he could look good for the holidays. Scott offered to pick up a fruit basket that Amy had ordered while he was going to be out playing golf at the course near the retailer. Okay. Lacey's mother, Sharon, spoke to Lacey on the telephone that evening also. So the last three people to have spoken to Lacey before she disappeared was Amy, her sister, Sharon, her mom, and Scott, her husband.
Okay.
So Scott later told police that he saw his wife. So December 24th, that's the day we're jumping to now. This is now Christmas Eve. Scott had told the police that he last saw his wife at 9:30 a.m. when he left to go fishing at the Berkeley Marina. All right. And he was going fishing in a boat that he had purchased just 2 weeks earlier. All right. So think about the date, December 24th. 2 weeks earlier would have been December 12th. Okay. Just remember
Okay.
those dates. You'll see why. So he said Lacey was watching Martha Stewart, talking about, that she was going to mop the floor, bake some cookies, and walk the family dog to a nearby park while he was gone fishing. So a neighbor of the Petersons said that she found their golden retriever, Mackenzie, alone outside of the home in the backyard around 10:30 a.m. At 2:15 p.m., Scott left a voicemail for Lacey saying, "Hey, beautiful, it's 2:15. I'm leaving Berkeley. See you soon." Scott then says that he returned home that afternoon. Lacey's car was in the driveway. However, the house was empty. He also said that he found Mackenzie in their backyard, which makes sense because that's where the neighbor said that the dog was last.
Mhm.
And he reached out to his mother, Sharon. All right. Sharon denied that he ever reached out to her at that
His
point.
mother denied?
Yes.
Okay. That
Scott then showered and did a load of laundry. A neighbor of Scott said to the police that Scott had knocked on their door asking if they had seen Laci. So the neighbor and his wife are going to both testify later in court that they heard Scott saying that day on the phone that he had been golfing all day and kept trying to call Laci. And they're also going to testify that that night when the police were there and all the family was there in the yard, they heard Scott saying again that he had gone to play golf earlier. So Scott called his mother-in-law. Okay, so Sharon is the mother-in-law, not Scott's mother.
Okay, so that's who he called, and Sharon says the
And Sharon
mother-in-law,
said that
not the
they never
mother,
yeah,
says,
he never called about
"You called me."
Mackenzie.
Okay.
So Scott called Sharon to ask if Laci was with her. And that is when Sharon learned that he was missing. That she was missing. Scott and Laci's stepfather, and that's the Gransky guy,
Mhm.
is the one that reported Laci missing. The police received the report of her disappearance shortly before 6 p.m. on December 24th. At the time of her disappearance, Laci was 7.5 months pregnant with a due date still February 10th. This story made nationwide media interest because she was pregnant and
And white
yeah,
and of
and
good
she came for
background.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, y'all. That's just the reality of it. Because I can tell you that I've at least read the same story 12 different times on things that never made nationwide media. Um, but anyways, so we're gonna move, a little bit forward to the investigation. So Modesto police, detectives, it was Alan and John, so Brocchini and Bueller, which is why we're
Burkini and
probably just gonna call
Bueller.
them Alan and John. We're just gonna see what comes out. So they're the ones that got the missing person call, and they became the lead investigators for the case. When they arrived at the Peterson home, detectives performed a search of the house. I was going to say a courtesy search, but it's not a courtesy search. But they performed a search of the house, and they interviewed Scott. Scott told the detectives that he had been fishing at Berkeley, approximately 90 miles from the couple's Modesto home, all day. The detectives
Convenient.
did find Laci's keys, wallet, sunglasses, and purse in the closet, and they began organizing a search of the area. The following day, which at this point would be Christmas Day, 900 of Laci's friends, family, and neighborhood people came out for her search.
900?
Yep.
Man, she was popular. If I were
All I can
missing,
think
bro.
is, if anything ever happens to me, y'all better come find me. I'm out here in the mountains. They could steal me off of a mountain or something. Especially with how much I run my mouth. So, and more or less, people just kept saying, it's so out of character for her to just disappear. She's too responsible for this.
So there were,
So,
like, thoughts that she might have ran away?
well, they had no idea what to think because at this point, they hadn't found any sign of foul play. They knew
Mhm.
that something was weird, but they had found no sign that something could actually be physically wrong with her.
Got it.
So, of course, her mom and them were thinking, oh, she's just in the hospital somewhere. She went to go do something and, whatever. But her car was at home.
So she
So,
wasn't anywhere far. Like, if she had to be within walking distance of her
right.
house.
And that's one of the biggest things about this is she didn't drive anywhere. So, along with the 900 family and friends, over 30 Modesto police, firefighters, got on foot, horseback, even in watercrafts. They used canine units, and they searched the surrounding area and the creeks for all day. It was for 10 and a half hours the first day.
They
A
spared no
25,000.
expense.
No, not at all. But again, so that the family's putting up a lot of money, which we're about to see. Like it started off as a $25,000 reward that was offered for any information leading to her, which
Mhm.
increased to 250,000,
Wow.
which increased to 500,000. They not only had the reward out, they made missing posters. They put Laci on water bottles. They even had banners all over town.
Wow. And this was the family doing this, right? Not the police
Correct.
department?
Correct. The
Okay.
family put up all the money for these expenses. Now they did have a lot of donations. They had a GoFundMe set up. Um, and like they had a command set up at the Red Lion Hotel, and there they would take phone calls, record developments, and circulate information in their meeting halls. So the
Okay.
Red Lion Hotel stepped up and let them take over their meeting halls to be able to do everything for Laci. And they had over 1,500 volunteers that distributed information for them.
So they were well connected, it seems. They had the support of the community. They must have been a like well-loved family in that town, to be honest.
Correct. Now we are going to jump over to Bueller. And if you remember, he's one of the investigators. Um, so Bueller said that he did not initially consider the case suspicious, but he did almost immediately suspect foul play, but said nothing. He became increasingly suspicious of Scott, though, because Scott was very calm. And so it really threw Bueller off that Scott was just like this calm guy with a cool demeanor. He wasn't asking a lot of questions. He was answering everything they asked very calmly. Um, And so Bueller went on to say that like Scott was like a strange combination of polite and arrogant, disaffectedly distant, and impatiently irritable. He just didn't seem to like he didn't seem like a man who was crushed or even disturbed by the fact that his wife and possible son had disappeared or possibly been killed.
I mean, he does look
However,
arrogant.
he does.
It also sounds like they're describing my mother, but
They were. Um, in fact, your mother's in the next case.
probably.
The next
But
trial. So but because her family stepped up and was like, "Listen, Scott is a phenomenal man, etcetera, etcetera." They looked at Scott as the perfect husband and them as an ideal couple. So at that point, they were not considering Scott on anything at all because her family backed him 150%.
okay, I got it. But in the back of their minds, I had to be there because
They're saying it
oftentimes
never was. Even now they say
really?
in the beginning they did not the only now her sister said that she suspected Scott, but her mother, it broke her mother's heart. If y'all sit down and watch the Laci Peterson documentary, um her mother talks a lot. Sharon talks a lot, and Sharon, you can see the heartbreak at the moment that she figured out that maybe her son-in-law wasn't as innocent as they thought.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying because usually in cases like this, the police tend to look at the husband. Did you just flip me off, Amanda, with your cup?
Listen, y'all, this is my favorite quote. It says, "Have a nice day." And I want it to be my
Thanks.
work meeting cup, but anyways, um,
But the police usually look at the husband first. That's who's most
right,
likely to have done it.
which is why they went to the family, and the family was like, "No, Scott is A1, great."
Mhm.
So that's when the nationwide media coverage produced like several tips and possible sightings, and then a phone call came in from Amber Fry, Amy
Ooh,
Fry.
Amy,
I
Amber,
don't know why I called her
tomato,
Amber.
tomato.
Yeah,
So
so
this is the
A
girlfriend,
Fry.
right? The
Yeah,
massage
so she
therapist?
calls in and she tells them like, "Hey, I'm Scott's girlfriend. We met on November 20th. We're dating and he's single." Frey also told the detectives, check out this date, on December 9th, which was 3 days before he bought a boat, that that his wife had died recently and this was going to be his first Christmas without his wife.
That is suspicious.
I know.
This is
And I
making me
know that I am
remember.
not making Scott look very not guilty in this, y'all. But there's reason, because you got to see from both views. We'll get there.
Okay.
So, yeah, so when Frey told the detectives that, they were like, "Whoa." Um, so detectives now begin to believe that Scott had started to plan on killing Laci a couple weeks before her disappearance. Hoping that Scott would confess and reveal information, they gave Frey a device to like record conversations with Scott moving forward, and she agreed to it. Um,
That's nice of her.
it was. Now it
It
was
really
not
was.
until January 15th that detectives finally informed Lacey's immediate family of Scott's affair with Amber. Her name is Amber. It's not Amy,
And
y'all. It's Amber.
it also, I mean, it has to take a lot of guts to be the other woman, not know that you're the other woman, obviously, but still come out and say, "Hey,
Yeah,
I
I'm
think this
sorry.
is."
And that's she has remained that way the entire case and the entire trial. She secured her own lawyer. She made sure that everything she said, wouldn't be taken out of context, that she was not in any trouble. She literally had no idea and her heart broke for this family. So Amber, listen, I'm an Amber fan, y'all, because as a female, I really feel like at some point we got to learn to stick together. And
Yeah.
you can't control that a man's gonna lie, but you can control if you take that lie and you believe it or you find out the truth, And once Amber found out the truth, she was like, "Oh, nope, I am done with him."
Yeah, and
Um,
not every woman does that. Just to be clear, like
no,
a lot of women will stick by their man. You know what I
that's why
mean?
side chicks are a thing.
Exactly. So the
Which
fact that
I
she
don't
came.
know. I don't know what kind of personality you have to be a side chick. I don't. And I only say that because I am not fixing to sit in my house and wait for you to show up. And now I say that I did that with my husband, but that was my husband. I might have been the side piece in my marriage.
It's quite possible. Also, I mean, I don't think side chicks sit around and wait for the dude to call. I think they have a multitude of
You
you
think they're
know,
side chicks for multiple people? I don't.
maybe
I
they
think
have
that a
like a
lot of side chicks
catalog.
are loyal to that one person.
Some of them, but not all of them, I don't think. Or
Maybe I
maybe
need to.
side chicks also
How do
have a
I apply to be a
boyfriend.
side chick?
Does it come with any benefits, health insurance? Because if that's the case, I would like the link as well. Could we do it virtually? Remote from home?
Hey babe, how was your day?
Yes, I will type to you all day long.
You should join textafriend.com. Boom, boom. That was a promotion, y'all.
I will
Not
try.
really. Um, so on January 24th, Sharon, Ron, so that's her mom, stepdad, and Lacey's brother Brent held a press conference in which Brent said that Scott had, in a phone call on January 6th, told Brent that he was having an affair with a woman in Fresno. Later that same day, Amber Frey held a press conference with her lawyer and explained her role in the investigation, that she had been recording conversations with Scott. That is when Scott found out that his conversations had been recorded with Amber.
Hmm.
All right. So I want to throw this up here because I want y'all to look at how calm he looks. And this is taken in the middle of the hotel when there's a bunch of media around, bunch of volunteers there. Scott stays calm the entire time, but he does look sad, y'all.
No, you
You don't think
don't.
he looks sad?
I don't think he looks sad.
I thought he looked sad. Maybe I just wanted to believe that. Again, red flag circus, can't help it. Um, so we're gonna jump a little bit forward, 3 months to April 13th of 2003. All right, two people are walking their dog, and sadly, they found the body of a male fetus on a tidal flat in San Francisco Bay.
Oh,
The
I hate
following
it
day,
when babies. I hate it when babies are found dead. It's so sad.
Yeah, it breaks your heart because they didn't even get an opportunity to enjoy life at some point, you know?
Yeah.
Um, the following day, a jogger spotted a human torso in the middle of the riprap, which is the water, y'all, and stuff. Which is the shoreline. Approximately 1 mile from where the body of the fetus was found. On April 18th, DNA tests verified the bodies were Laci and Connor.
That's fucking sad. That's really sad.
The autopsy on both bodies were performed by um, a forensic pathologist. His name was Dr. Brian Peterson. He had no relation to either of the families. They specify that because of his last name. They literally specify it every single time they bring him up. Um, so which makes me feel suspicious because I'm a conspiracy theorist. So,
Wait,
um,
do you know, like, did the baby? Because I know he was like, she was 7 months pregnant, so the baby could technically live outside of the womb. Was the baby like taken out via C-section, and did he take a breath, or was
we're gonna get there.
okay?
Only because it's part of the evidence. So,
Okay.
um, although the judge sealed the autopsy results, so nobody can actually get their hands on them. An anonymous Associated Press source revealed that Connor's body had minor decomposition, mutilations on his right side, and the length of nylon cord wrapped around his body, which was the umbilical cord. Um, the source of mutilations and how the cord became wrapped around Connor's body could not be conclusively determined. Laci's body was missing its head, arms, most of its legs, and like the internal organs were severely decomposed. The autopsy also revealed that Laci had 2 cracked ribs and her uterus was intact.
Hmm.
Dr. Peterson stated, he testified that the missing organs and like the disarticulation where the conditions of the body were like if they were weighed down at the wrists and stuff, ankles, and
Mhm.
submerged in water for multiple months could cause a lot of the problems that were on Laci's body. Um, Neither Laci's date of death or whether the broken ribs occurred post mortem could be determined. And then they also concluded that Connor had died in utero and his body was expelled from Laci's decomposing corpse. So when she passed, he then passed inside of her and his body was expelled at some point during the decomposition process.
It seems like they excuse me. It seems like they weren't able to, like, get a lot of good physical evidence from what you're telling me.
Well, and I'm thinking that a lot of that has to do with the fact that her body was submerged underwater.
Yeah, no, for sure. So whoever did it, I mean, it doesn't seem suspicious to you that he buys a boat and then she gets cut up
Oh,
into pieces and
absolutely.
thrown in the water?
Right. And listen, I get that because it's circumstantial evidence. You know what I mean? It looks like it. And this right here, I just wanted to pull this up. After they found the torso, they spent hours out in the water on these boats trying to find any other piece of her body.
Yeah, but I mean, it could have been long gone or an animal could have gotten to it. So, but also, I just want to point out who goes on a boat on December 24th. I'm sure some people do, but usually the day before Christmas, you're like Christmas Eve, you're like, I don't know, preparing gifts and um just being with the family. Like, you're not out on a fucking boat.
Exactly. So So moving forward, all right. Sorry, y'all, I hit my mic. I don't know if y'all can hear that. Um, the discovery of Laci and Connor's bodies changed from missing person to homicide almost immediately. This allowed detectives to expand their investigation of Scott as the primary suspect. At this point, because of how far it had gotten and it then becoming a homicide, the FBI was brought in. And the FBI and Modesto Police Department performed forensic searches of the entire Peterson home. Using mitochondrial DNA testing, the FBI linked a hair that was wrapped around pliers found in Scott's fishing boat to hairs recovered from Laci's body.
Okay. I mean, I can see where you're saying circumstantial evidence because the hair could technically have gotten there, like transferred from he got it at home from the couch or from, his clothes and then went on the boat and that's how the hair ended up there. So it's not very strong evidence.
So then the police searched Scott's truck, toolbox, and warehouse. And in his warehouse, which is a storage unit, not an actual warehouse, guys, they found a concrete anchor in the boat that Scott had purchased 2 weeks before he reported Laci missing. So the police were like, hey, what's up with this anchor? And Scott told detectives that he used a 90-pound bag of concrete to make one boat anchor and used the rest of the concrete to repair his driveway. So they were like, okay, well, he has a reason for that at this point. But when they searched Scott's warehouse on December 27th, they had found a cement powder on the boat trailer. And they found 5 circular marks matching the size and shape of the bucket he said he used for the anchor. But there was only one anchor when they searched later.
So he made 5 anchors, not one.
Henley also found that there was a sledgehammer and a dustpan covered in that same powder. I'm not really sure how that relates to the case, but it's mentioned multiple times. My brain doesn't wrap around why that's important. So, but I just want to let y'all know for those of you that understand that. Prosecutors, pro- let me try this again.
Prostitutes. Just kidding.
Prostitutes allege that Scott made 5 anchors and then used 4 for Laci's wrists and ankles to sink Laci's body in San Francisco Bay, which would make sense why only her torso was found, because after being in water for so long and the decomposition happening, it could rip off her torso from the items that were being weighed down. So, after
And
Scott
that's
was
probably when the baby came out.
more than likely, yes. After Scott was arrested, police searched the San Francisco home, but they never found anything. Using a GPS locator they'd placed on Scott's car, detectives and Bueller and Brocchini were tracking Scott to San Diego and everywhere he went. And then the last thing is anticipating that Peterson was planning to evade arrest by fleeing to Mexico. The detectives immediately began electronically monitoring him, but Peterson started to realize it, so he switched vehicles, rendering their GPS completely useless. And I just want to point out the day that they caught him, this is how he
He
looked then.
he changed his entire look. Like, he's gone from, just
Complete
like a
business dressed, down man to, I don't know, like a mountain
he
man?
yeah, no, he went from looking like he goes to church every Sunday to here there's Billy Bob who goes to the, dive bar every weekend.
Right,
No,
dude.
no.
I don't know why, I just feel like he says dude now.
No, I mean, I think he looks better as a blonde though, with the beard, but
I think
not
he looks better
relevant.
unalive sometimes, but, um, so with that being said, um, police increased their surveillance of Peterson, following his location, listening to his cell phone calls, and
Hold on. Hold on. Can you cut? Can you re-say that mainly because I just realized I yawned.
oh,
Really.
okay, yeah, and we're getting close to the end of this one, so,
Okay.
um,
I'm not saying you're boring, Amanda. I'm just
I don't believe you at this point, but I don't care. Um, okay, so police increased the surveillance of Peterson following his location by like listening to his cell phone calls. Because he had switched cars, they were able to track that, and they knew that he was currently less than 30 miles from the Mexican border and he grew up in that area. So if he was planning to flee to Mexico, he knew the area really well. So it's not like he would need MapQuest or anything like that. He would literally just be able to drive over to Tijuana.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
it doesn't seem like the border would also be really hard to find because I'm pretty sure there's signs, but um
right.
yeah.
So April 18th, 2003, detectives arrested Peterson at the Torrey Pines Golf Course in La Jolla. They arrested him at a golf course, and he was meeting his father and brother for a golf game, but he was like 8 miles from the border. He had dyed his hair and his beard blonde. His vehicle was packed with equipment and supplies, including $15,000 in cash.
He was running.
Okay, listen, 15,000 in cash, Viagra, camping and survival equipment, several changes of clothes, 4 cell phones, and 2 driver's licenses.
What was he gonna do? Go camping and fuck the wildlife? Like,
Viagra was important to him, okay? He was a newly single man.
oh
Um,
man.
so Lee Peterson, Scott's father, explained that Scott used his brother's license to get a San Diego resident discount at the golf course, and that's why he had his brother's license. And also explained that he dyed his hair and stuff because of so much media attention, and he didn't want the media to keep bothering him. And that they did. There's proof that they did go to that golf course all the time. So police and prosecutors, of course, alleged that they switched the car, dyed his hair, had a fake driver's license and camping equipment so that he could flee to Mexico and disguise himself.
I mean, that makes sense.
So at that point, detectives Brokini and Bueller drove Peterson back um to Modesto, where he was booked in the county jail on April 21st. He was arraigned by the Superior Court and charged with 2 felony counts of murder with premeditation and special circumstances, to which he pleaded not guilty. All
Of
right.
course.
So this is the entire Laci Scott story from the beginning all the way up until court. And the biggest thing about this is, as people, what do we believe? I mean, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence against Scott. And this beautiful woman lost her life, lost the future that she had planned with, Scott and her son Connor. And there were so many other little things. Now, one thing that I purposely didn't mention yet, um, because I wanted to kind of bring y'all back, is the day around the day, they don't know if it was the exact day, but either the day before or the same day Laci went missing, one of the neighbors' houses was robbed.
But it had nothing to do with this, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because I feel like I vaguely remember this. And they caught the guys that robbed the other house.
So they did catch 2 gentlemen, and the
Yeah.
gentleman actually immediately said, "Hey, we robbed the house. We don't got nothing to do with that Laci thing."
Mm. I,
Um,
I mean,
However, it does create probable doubt.
it It does, but it doesn't because okay, so I didn't watch the documentary, but I remember this case from like haven't heard it before. I think that they were somewhere else at the time that she would have disappeared.
That's what they say, and both of them technically have alibis, but both of their alibis were women that they were dating. So the alibis are always kind of put in the back of people's head when it's a situation where they're in a relationship because couples lie for each other all the time.
Yeah.
So, and that, but that's again, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence against Scott. I hands down the entire time the trial was going on was like, he's guilty, lock him up, throw away the key, da da da. I can't believe he did that to his wife. I remember, and I remember when all this was happening. I keep hitting my microphone. I'm so sorry, microphone. Um, I remember when all this was happening because it was, I was a late teenager, early 20s through this whole thing. And I remember always being like, I will never get that confused with a guy. Like that will never happen to me. But I'll tell you, if I didn't get out when I got out, it could have been me. It could have been any of us that have been in any kind of CDV type relationship or marriage. The only difference with me and Laci is Scott got fed up quicker and he decided to take action, or did he?
I don't know. But
There's
I
a lot of
find that
reasonable doubt.
at the beginning you mentioned that her sister immediately thought that Scott was guilty. And when we're in a relationship and it's not things go wrong, we don't always talk to our parents, but sometimes we do talk to our siblings. I feel like not everything was as picture perfect as it seemed because I mean there's no police reports that
Well,
said that there
clearly
was
it
a
wasn't, or he wouldn't have been dating Amber Frey in November and telling her December 9th that this was going to be his first holiday without his wife.
yeah, but I'm saying there's okay, so there's plenty of men and women too that are able to have a wife or a husband and then have a second life because they're quote unquote bored with the monotony of marriage. So but doesn't mean that they don't love their wife, or I mean actually I feel like it does mean that they don't love their wife,
Yeah,
but
listen, and if somebody gets that bored with me, especially with my ADHD, if I don't keep you on your toes, then you don't deserve to live. That
yeah.
was mean. I shouldn't have said
Okay,
that.
wow. No, but what
So
I'm trying
sorry.
to say is that there's people that have two lives and they don't murder their spouse. You know what I mean? And the spouse
Right,
sometimes
there's
will
other
find
ways
out.
out, like, and I don't even know if anyone knows this, but, like, divorce.
Yeah.
Like, that's a whole thing, like, that I'm not saying it's easy, but it can be. I mean, my
Yeah.
divorce took a little bit. However, that divorce and taking a little bit, um, I didn't get murdered.
Yeah, but okay, so here's the thing with divorce. Not every divorce is the same, but I feel like in divorces where
Laci
there's
woulda gotten half of everything.
exactly where there's money, I think maybe he wouldn't have wanted to part with the status and with the
Well,
money.
and
So
you're so on point with that, and we haven't even brought that up yet. But next week, y'all make sure that y'all tune in again because we are going to talk about the financial troubles within their marriage as it
I
comes out as evidence in the trial.
perfect.
And
I
this was
can't wait.
never discussed. So next week, we're going to make sure that we do that. And until then, y'all get caught up to date on what's going on with Laci Peterson so we can talk about this a little bit more next week.
And what do you guys think? Did he do it? Did he not do it? Leave a comment.
Yep. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share our page with your friends.
Or
Bye.
else. Bye.
So grab a seat and join the fun. In lieu of murder, we're number one.